we're joined now by Wits lecturer Tinashe Chuchu, a friend of Battle for the White House. Tinashe, good to see you again. Thank you so much for coming in. Always good to see you. It's turning out to be a tighter race than it was last week and the week before that. Is Trump really making ground on Hillary Clinton?
He's probably making ground on Hillary Clinton. Looking at the email scandal, we received 15,000 new emails, and it's probably working against Hillary. She is really sort of failed to close the email scandal, so probably that's a factor.
But as much as he is closing the gap on the overall poll numbers, it ultimately comes down to those swing states, and she's leading in the majority of those. How much more does Trump need in order to really make this a close race, a la 2000?
Yes, I think Trump, if let's say he can't take Florida and let's say Pennsylvania, at least he has to take Ohio. Ohio is a neighboring state of Indiana. Indiana is a strongly Republican state, and also having Pence on his ticket would probably help him because Mike Pence is the governor of Indiana. So I think his best bet is Ohio.
And turning out, as it was, that he didn't look towards John Kasich, who's the governor of Ohio, who's also on that Republican presidential race in the primaries, at least. How much of an error do you think it could turn out to be from Trump not to have persuaded Kasich?
I think if Trump loses Ohio and fails to win Florida and Pennsylvania, that would be the biggest mistake of his life. At the same time, you find Trump and Kasich really didn't get along. So probably it's better to have everyone on your side, and Pence is definitely on Trump's side.
I actually saw an interview with Kasich where he says that he heard that one of Trump's aides contacted one of his aides, and that was pretty much where the conversation ended. The conversation hasn't ended as far as third-party candidates go. Gary Johnson has had a lot to say. Some polls have got him up at around 10, even 12%. How much of damage do you think that the Libertarians could do in this election?
I think Libertarians could have a significant impact. They'll probably won't win a state. They'll probably won't have a significant impact in terms of electoral college votes, but in terms of determining the winner, they might definitely tip the scales.
And they're likely to take votes away from the Republicans more than the Democrats, aren't they? Somebody who might take votes away from the Democrats would be Jill Stein of the Green Party, who's attracting Bernie Sanders' constituency. Would you be worried if you were Hillary Clinton, or is that just like a mosquito irritation?
She's probably a mosquito, and just for information, you find that an arrest warrant was issued for her and her running mate. But I don't think she's going to have the kind of impact that the Libertarian candidates would have, because look at Gary Johnson, he was a governor, a Republican governor. Look at his vice presidential candidate, he was also a Republican governor. So I think the Libertarian ticket might actually take a bit from the Republicans. But Jill Stein, I don't think.
And when you say the Libertarians will take away, are we looking at a Ralph Nader taking away or a Ross Perot taking away?
This could be somewhere in between. We will only have to wait and see, but I think they might take a substantial chunk of Republican votes.
We saw Trump speaking again on immigration. He was in Mexico last week. You would have seen that. Interesting, I heard him speaking there now about not Mexico will pay for it, but the Gulf states will pay for it. Is he changing his rhetoric here?
I think this is the second time he has changed, probably in a short space of time. And initially, when he was in Mexico with President Peña Nieto, he had said we didn't discuss about payment of the war. After he left Mexico, only 2 hours later, he said they'll pay for the war, they just don't know it. So this is Trump being Trump again.
And speaking of Gulf states, I mentioned it earlier in the program, Honduras, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador. If you're one of those countries, you must be thinking, hang on a second, how did we get involved in this?
I don't think they'll pay for that war. Those countries actually need the states to help them. I don't think, even Mexico, I don't think Mexico will pay for the war, even though it's probably the single country that has a lot to benefit from U.S. relations, considering the shared border.
And that's if that wall even gets built, because it's dependent on Trump even becoming president to begin with, forgetting that he'd have to pass it through Congress and the Senate. One way that Trump can move ahead of Hillary in those polls is in the presidential debates that are coming up at the end of this month. What are you expecting to see in those debates?
I think the first debate is going to be for the tabloids. I think Trump is going to try to have a spectacle of the first debate. But after everything is settled down, we'll see the second debate. But I think Trump, as the showman, is going to make a performance for the ages. That's what I think.
There will be three debates
Yes.
between Trump and Clinton
Yes.
at the end of the day. We've seen some memorable moments in these presidential debates in the old days. I remember from 4 years ago, most recently, President Obama turned to Mitt Romney and said, well, we might have fewer boats than we did in 1916, but we also have fewer horses and bayonets. Trump is capable of that kind of a line, isn't he?
I think Trump is going to bring in the Clinton Foundation, he's going to bring in the State Department. I think he's going to bring in everything, including the kitchen sink.
And then there's also the vice presidential debate, which we'll see
Yes.
between Kaine and Pence. What kind of a debate would you expect that to turn out to be?
I think the vice presidential debate might actually have a lot of facts, a lot of information voters can use. Because the main candidates, I feel that a lot of these side things will take center stage. But if you look at Lindsey Graham, a Republican senator, actually said that the vice presidential candidates are more palatable than the main candidates. So I think when you look at Tim Kaine and Mike Pence, it's probably going to be based on facts. That's what I think.
And then Clinton versus Trump in those three. Are you expecting it to be a case of Hillary needing to protect her lead versus Trump and Trump attacking to make up that ground? Is that the kind of strategy that you'd be expecting from the two?
Yes, I think that's going to be probably Hillary's chief strategy. And I think her only vulnerability are the emails. And maybe she can also say, Trump, you didn't want to release your tax returns. So probably she has a backup strategy for that. But yes, that's the main strategy I think she will take.
You're still expecting Hillary to win in November?
I think she's going to win. I still don't see a change in the electoral map. And at the moment, all the swing states are pointing in one direction, Hillary's direction. Unless if an October surprise happens, like a terrorist attack happens, and people in America generally feel that a Republican president is stronger with the military. So if there's no terrorist attack in October, I still don't know what is going to come out that hasn't been said, because Hillary has been in the spotlight for over 25 years. Everything that she's probably done is already out there, just like Trump as well. So we'll just have to see, though.
And then obviously a US election is not necessarily about the popular vote, it's about the electoral college
Yes.
numbers. What kind of a score are you expecting to see in Hillary's favor?
I think if the big three states, Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, go into Hillary's column, we could see in excess of 365 electoral college votes. And that, in other words, is a landslide. But let's say these three states are split. Whoever wins two of the three, like Florida, Ohio, or Ohio and Pennsylvania. But looking at Pennsylvania, the last Republican to win it was in 1988. So I still don't see a pathway for Trump, but we'll just see.
365 would be very similar to a score that another Clinton got in 1992. We'll leave it at that
Yes.
for this week. I'll have you back on the show in the future, I hope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tinashe Chuchu, Wits lecturer. Always a pleasure having him here with us on Battle for the White House. Well, you did hear earlier that the US presidential debates are coming up pretty soon. As the candidates sharpen their debating skills, here's a lighter-hearted look.